I was brought into the world with a kiss and a phosphorus flame, a moment in which I imagined we were both truly alive. I knew her better than she understood, the girl who was death come down to live amongst the mortals, Laila Starr. Today on the Comic Book Report, the many deaths of Laila Starr from Boom Studios. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm excited to say we're back into the world of Boom Studios, taking a look at the many deaths of Laila Starr. Now this is a book that I heard a ton of positive buzz for when it was first coming out in single issues, then in trade paperback, and finally with this beautiful oversized hardcover, and at every step along the way I missed my opportunity to pick it up and check it out, so I'm so happy to finally be giving it a read. I've recently become a fan of Rom V, so I knew that this would be one on the list I had to give a read. Before we jump into the review today, I would just like to say a huge thank you to those at Boom Studios for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review. Okay, let's go ahead and start. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Rom V, with art from Filipe Andrade. The issues in this volume were first published by Boom Studios beginning in 2021. The volume itself collects the many deaths of Laila Starr, issues 1 through 5. And finally, this is a beautiful oversized hardcover edition with gorgeous glossy print paper stock, what appears to be a sewn binding, and a total of 144 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at the front cover of The Many Deaths of Laila Starr, the hardcover edition. This is a reproduction of, I believe, issue 5, or rather the cover for issue 5. I thought that this was a pretty good choice for this collected edition. It's evocative, interesting, and it definitely showcases some of the brilliant colors we get throughout this book. As we make our way to the spine, we have that same beautiful color as the field on here. I think it's a bit of a bluish. We have Boom Studios, of course, the title of this work, a nice little stylized design, and then the creators, Rom V and Filipe Andrade. Overall, I really like the spine design. It's crisp, to the point, and I love that they retained the fonts for the title. I think it all really just serves this graphic design. Really dig it, and it looks good on a bookcase. On the back of the book, we have a nice cool color gradient. We have some accolades and reviews of the book, along with some publication and pricing information, all fairly standard stuff. I personally would have loved a bit more art here, maybe a character model or two, but I think focusing on the color design was also a really nice choice. It's certainly a striking back cover. And I should note, if it wasn't abundantly clear, that this edition does not come with a dust jacket. Okay, and now for all you prospective collectors out there, I wanted to do a quick look at this book's binding. As I mentioned, I believe it is a sewn binding, perhaps a little bit of glue as well, but I found this to be extraordinarily well bound, and I'm happy to say that especially with the page borders, there is next to no gutter loss on this thing. You'll see as I flip through as well, but overall, very impressed with the binding of this collection. Okay, and before we jump into the book itself, I did want to do a quick size comparison just so you can see how oversized this book is compared to some other traditional formats. To do that, I have Alice Ever After Volume 1 from Boom Studios as well, next to also my Web of Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1, of course from Marvel Comics. So these are some standard format sizes. The trade paperback over to the left is a standard size, so it's the size of a floppy single issue comic, and the omnibus to the right is a standard oversized format, or if you're collecting omnibuses. So as you can see, Laila Starr does tower over both copies, which is kind of nice to see. It's fun to have an oversized format, especially when you have a stunning art piece like this. Really beautiful work here with the many deaths of Laila Starr. Okay, and as we wrap up this size comparison, let's go ahead and break into the book proper. Okay, and as we make our way into this book, we have some beautiful colored gradient end pages, followed by a title page, publication information, creator breakdown page, and I'm happy to report a bit of an introduction before we jump right into issue 1. I will say we do have these nice, beautiful chapter breaks between each of the issues, and we do have the covers as we approach the back extras. So that's just something to note. We do still have the covers, but they're all presented at the back. At any rate, as we go into the book itself, you might be asking, what is The Many Deaths of Laila Starr? Perhaps like me, you have heard a lot of buzz about this book, or maybe this is the first time you've ever heard about it. Or maybe you're a long-time Laila Starr fan. Whatever brings you here, welcome. But what this book is about, essentially, we have Laila Starr, or before she's known as Laila Starr, she's kind of the embodiment of death, and she's basically being evicted from her home and kind of forced into a mortal because we find out that there is someone who was just born on Earth who in his lifetime will find immortality and be able to bring it to humanity, effectively ending the need for death. So we have Death basically being fired or laid off. Obviously she's very disgruntled, and she ultimately inhabits the body of a recently deceased young woman known as Laila Starr. From this point, she just goes by Laila Starr, and in her own kind of mortal body now, she's really having a hard time adjusting to real human life. She still has some interesting vestiges from her time as Death. Death seems to follow her in many ways. She's able to converse with different beings or locations in ways that other humans are not, and she has a bit of an awareness, but beyond that, she still has a lot of trappings of humanity. The first thing she does when she's in this mortal body is trying to find the person who finds the secret to immortality and trying to basically kill this person. This person is a baby at the time, and ultimately Laila is not able to go through with it. Shortly after she realizes she can't kill this baby, she herself is killed, and the next thing we know, she wakes up several years later. We find this person who is sort of the embodiment of life bringing her back, and now she's back in her body again as Laila Starr, just sometime in the future, and she hasn't appeared to have aged. And this is really the format we have for the rest of this series. We have Laila basically interacting with this young man at first, who will eventually find the key to immortality. We have her jumping into his life at different points. At the beginning of each issue, she kind of finds him, and by the end of the issue, she dies in some other way, only to be brought back, and then the stage is set for this subsequent issue. So we not only follow her as she has these many deaths and resurrections, but we have her interacting with this young man who starts as a baby and then progressively grows older. We jump forward to when he's a young boy, the different people that kind of influence his life, the first time he sort of encounters death. After that, we have him as a young adult dealing with the loss of a friend and trying to find himself. He deals with his first breakup. After that, we have him as a crushed and just grieving widower. After that, we have him as an older man, kind of toward the end of his life. And so those are kind of the act breaks we have throughout the issues here. Along the way, Laila really gets in touch more with her humanity, and we have her kind of questioning whether she even wants to go back to become the person of death again now that she's gotten to know humanity from kind of a street level view. The central relationship in many ways for this book is the relationship between Laila Starr and this young man who discovers the cure for death. We also have her interacting, like I said, with the embodiment of life and some of these other figures, but Laila's a really interesting and tricky character. In some ways, she's very rounded and nuanced as she grows as a human, as weird as that feels to say. Certainly, we have tremendous depth with this other character who basically finds the key to immortality. We get to see kind of the full breadth of human life and tragedy played out in these snapshots for him. And along the way, of course, we have just absolutely stunning artwork here from Andrade. I love the art direction here. We have really fine lines and thin detailed work. There's such an immersive sense of scope to this as well. It feels grand, larger than life. I also love the color palette they chose. I really feel like it just enriches the storytelling. There is something kind of folkloric about this as well. You feel like you're reading some kind of story or kind of folk tale. And yeah, anyway, just beautifully done stuff here. I think the pacing of this whole book is brilliant. Anyway, going back to the story for a bit, ultimately the story culminates with Laila coming to this man again as an older man. We find out that he's kind of living by himself, almost a hermit, but people in the neighborhood have had kind of an urban legend about him that they can bring dying animals to them and he can kind of bring them back many cases. We have Laila kind of come across him and they have a long discussion where he apologizes for his last outburst that he did as a younger man. We find out that he actually has the cure for death. He has the key to immortality and he's put it in a shoebox and doesn't want to use it. We find out that he is also dying and we actually have him pass away before the series ends. He gives the key to immortality to Laila Starr, who basically just sets it adrift on the ocean as she walks away with life, kind of having a, just sort of musing reflection on life and death. It is a really powerful tale. Of course, I am leaving out some details that you'll have to explore for yourself, but I am really impressed by what Ram V and team were able to do here across these 5 issues. This book has a quality to it that it's hard for me to really capture. It feels like slice of life. Like I said, it feels sort of folkloric and dreamy in a way. I feel like there's some profound ideas or truths that are navigated or explored throughout the pages without feeling overly pedantic, which I did appreciate. I think the art direction, like I said, is absolutely standout and one of a kind. I really am just becoming more and more of a Ram V fan, and this is certainly in support of that. But yeah, overall, I didn't really know what to expect here. Again, this was a series that was really hyped up for me over the last couple years. I was excited to finally read it for myself, and I do think that this is one that's going to be able to sink in more as time goes by after I have read it. I'm interested to see what I think about it upon subsequent readings, but so far this was a really fun experience that I'm happy to have had. After the main issues, we do have a good selection of extras, including afterwards by both of the creators, along with kind of breakdowns of different pockets of the creative process that some of the creators like to engage in or what they do. I really like that part. It was a cool behind-the-scenes kind of creative workshop in many ways. After that, we had a section talking about each of their favorite scenes throughout the work, which I also really liked. I thought that was a really novel thing to do that I wish more collections explored, is as the creator, what is a standout scene for you within this work? Along the way, we have bits of the art and imagery, which I liked. We had character models as well across the extras, followed by a cover art gallery where we get to see the covers for each of the 5 issues. Again, really happy that was collected at the back of this book. After that, all we really have is a bit of a creator bio at the back, and that is really the end of this collection, The Many Deaths of Laila Starr hardcover. And now all that's left is to give it a grade. For this thoughtful and intensely character-driven reflection on life and death, the Comic Book Report is happy to give The Many Deaths of Laila Starr hardcover by Ram V and Filipe Andrade from Boom Studios a B. This was certainly an above average read for me. I'm so elated I finally had a chance to make my way through it. The art direction is gorgeous from every single page. The coloring work in particular is a standout. I really enjoyed the characters. I thought that this book was really well paced. It in many ways felt like a slow burn that absolutely paid off, at least for this reader. I'm really happy I had an opportunity to check it out, and the fact that I got to read it for the first time in this oversized format was a real gift. This is one I am definitely eager to revisit sometime in the future, and one I could see being more or less a modern classic. But if that's just my opinion, I'd love to hear yours. Have you read The Many Deaths of Laila Starr? Is this a book you plan to read? Do you have any other favorites from these comic book creators, or perhaps the publisher Boom Studios? Let me know all about it in the comments section. Again, a big thank you to all of those that have made it this far in the review, and a huge thank you as well to those at Boom Studios for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review. Thanks, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to give this video a like, that comment we talked about, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks, and have a good one.